An avalanche of allegations. Democratic candidate for the Senate in Maine, Graham Platner, hit with more allegations of past misconduct as a controversy continues to snowball.
The latest coming from the New York Times via an ex-girlfriend named Lindsay Fifield, who says Platner would grab her on the shoulders, sometimes hard enough to leave marks. Platner denies those claims. The article goes on to allege that Platner knew what his tattoo meant.
Platner pushing back on the claim from his ex last night.
I took my shirt off in front of my family, many of whom are Jewish. We even released as a campaign a video, which you're putting up on the screen right now, of me dancing at my brother's wedding to his wife, who is Jewish, and her fully extended Jewish family. And I would not have taken my shirt off in that context if I had known. And so any statement saying that I did know is again, totally false.
So the latest bombshell follows Platner's meeting with Senate Democrats earlier this week, where Platner assured them there would be no further allegations coming out against him.
According to Politico, who spoke with a senior Democratic Senate aide, many in the party now concerned the mounting scandals will sink Platner in November. That aide saying this, quote, "There is dramatically higher concern about losing Maine now across the caucus than there was before the stories broke. Everyone is apoplectic." Our chief Washington correspondent, James Rosen, has more on this story. James.
Bob and Katrina, good afternoon. This sensational New York Times story that dropped yesterday afternoon was based on numerous interviews with women who had dated Graham Platner, many of whom had good things to say, as well as 3 who cited, quote, unsettling behavior. One of those was Lindsay Fifield, a well-known conservative operative here in the Beltway. Quote, she referred to him in a diary entry in June 2016 as the most toxic, literally abusive man on earth, who destroyed my life. He regularly grabbed her by the shoulders, the Times reported, sometimes hard enough to leave marks, and on one occasion yanked her out of a cab by the wrist after an argument. He said this a lot. If anybody ever came in here, I would rape them, she recalled, saying that he added that it would not be in a sexual way, not in a gay way. He was like, I would rape them to show that I'm dominant, she said. The others, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said Mr. Platner was never physically threatening. In an appearance last night on the MS Now program, All In with Chris Hayes, Platner rejected as false the alleged incident in which Fifield claimed Platner had yanked her out of a taxi by the wrist, saying it did not happen.
There are some allegations in this piece that I just want to be kind of unequivocal about are simply not true. Anything alleging physicality, anything alleging that I knew what my tattoo was, these are the statements of someone who's politically motivated.
Note Platner's use of language there, kind of unequivocal. At the same time, the former combat veteran in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, more recently in the oyster business, cast his wartime traumas as the root of his past misconduct.
In this piece, there's a lot about my struggling, not being a good boyfriend, certainly self-medicating with alcohol, and I've been very upfront since the beginning of this campaign that was a pretty dark period of my life after I came back from my combat service, and that's what that kind of life looks like.
In short, should Graham Platner remain in this race and go on to defeat the Republican incumbent Senator Susan Collins, it would mark a story of survival against one of the most extensive series of negative disclosures that any political candidate has ever weathered. Bob and Katrina.
Well, he certainly have to weather a lot.